Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. We're still in our fourth cycle of 1994, talking about a movie on this episode. In this episode, we're talking about Pulp Fiction, probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Don't really know where I rank it in my top movies list or anything like that, but just an iconic film. I remember seeing this. I didn't see it in the theaters, but rented it on VHS after school one day in the fall of 1995, and had been a Tarantino fan pretty much ever since. This is the first Tarantino film that I saw, and then I think Kill Bill forward, I've seen all of his movies in theaters. Jackie Brown and I guess obviously Pulp Fiction, but Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, and Reservoir Dogs were the only ones I haven't seen theatrically. Like Kill Bill Volume One through Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I've seen in theaters. But this came out in 1994. I think he had done Reservoir Dogs a couple years prior to this, but this is definitely the movie that put him on the map in a big way, because this movie kind of came out and just got a bunch of hype. I think it won the Cannes Film Festival award, and just is an iconic film. Really good. The screenplay is incredible. It won an Academy Award for the screenplay. The casting is great. The dialogue is amazing, like you would expect from a Tarantino movie. But I have some notes here about it and a few other things to kind of show off. So watched this again recently. It was on Paramount Plus. That's where I ended up watching it. I also own it. Well, I've bought it how many times now? 3 times. So I bought it on VHS back when it came out. I think it was the first edition that had at the end of the credits it had some extra scenes. So I had it on VHS. I have the 2003 DVD, which I think they put that out with Jackie Brown. So that's where I first saw Jackie Brown, was when I bought Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction on DVD. That was 2003 or so. And then most recently, I picked it up again on DVD. Don't have it on Blu-ray yet. But sometimes the Walmart $5 bin just has a banger, and picked this up in the $5 bin fairly recently as well. It's just DVD quality, so the Paramount Plus version has higher quality, but 2 discs in this, feature film, and then a bunch of other specials. So it has the on the back here, we have obviously the movie, Pulp Fiction, the facts documentary, some deleted scenes, the Charlie Rose Show interview with Tarantino, Siskel and Ebert at the movies, the Tarantino generation, production design featurette, behind the scenes montages, interviews from the Independent Spirit Awards, the Palme d'Or acceptance speech. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Acceptance speech by Tarantino, reviews and articles analyzing the film, and this film's definitely been incredibly well documented and analyzed over the years. I remember reading this theories, which we'll get to a little bit later in the video, as far back as maybe 1996 when it first got online, in AOL chats or message boards and what have you. So reviews and articles, we already mentioned that. Theatrical trailers from around the world, TV spots, 8 different still galleries featuring hundreds of photos, and soundtrack chapter stops. And this was $5 in the Walmart DVD bin. You can't go wrong there. So let me grab my notes here and get through these notes. There we go. So first released May 21st, 1994. That's at Cannes. And then released, wide release, or at least America, United States release, October 14th of 1994. Because I remember for some reason, when I was doing my research, I was kind of surprised it came out that late in the year. Because I definitely remember seeing a lot of articles, or maybe it was on Entertainment Tonight or stuff like that, about just a lot of buzz around the movie. It was probably from the premiere, the Cannes Film Festival premiere, and then of course released later in the year in October. I remember renting this in 1995. A Friday after school, rented it, watched it, it was completely blown away. A lot of stuff I did not expect, which we'll get to when we get to the plot. But ended up watching it twice that weekend. And one thing I really like to do, this is back at, like, I did this at least twice in the 90s. If there's a film I really like, I will go out and buy the soundtrack. I think after I saw Speed in 1995 on HBO, like a couple days later, went out and got the soundtrack. Same thing for Pulp Fiction. I don't know where my CD copy is, but I do have as well. I'm gonna just move some stuff around here. The soundtrack, picked it up a couple years ago. The soundtrack on vinyl. So there's the back of it there. You got the iconic cover with Uma Thurman. Just an incredible soundtrack. Let me see what we got on this soundtrack. So again, one thing I like with this is it does intercut the dialogue scenes, and then you have songs. So first track is Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. So the iconic "I love you, Pumpkin, I love you, Honey Bunny." This is a robbery, like that whole scene. You have Misraloo by Dick Dale, the Royale of Cheese, which is dialogue between John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie, Let's Stay Together by Al Green. Busted Surfboards by the Tornadoes. Lonesome Town by Ricky Nelson. Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield. Zed's Dead Baby, which is dialogue between Maria de Mendes and Bruce Willis. We have Bull Equal Part 2. We have Jack Rabbit Slim's Twist Contest, which is dialogue between, Jerome Patrick Hoban and, of course, Uma Thurman and Travolta, or Uma Thurman generally. Travolta doesn't really say anything during that little interaction. You can never tell by Chuck Berry. Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon by Urge Overkill. If Love is a Red Dress, Hang Me in Rags by Mary McKee. Bring Out the Gimp, which is dialogue between Peter Green and Dawn Whitaker. Comanche by the Rebels. Flowers on the Wall by the Statler Brothers. Personality Goes a Long Way, which is dialogue between Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta. You have Surf Rider by the Lonely Ones, and then very iconically Ezekiel 2517 by Samuel L. Jackson. I remember one time this is the fall of 1996, my sophomore year of high school. There was something about a church wanting to hand out Bibles at the school, or they couldn't do it in the school, so they did it kind of in the parking lot or something. And I remember not really caring about it all that much, but I wanted one. I picked one up. I don't know if I still have it or if I probably got lost in a box or something. But I mostly picked it up because I wanted to look up Ezekiel 2517. I don't know if it was actually even in that particular book they were giving out, but just a kind of funny thing there. So the soundtrack is incredible. Tarantino soundtracks, like pretty much all his soundtracks, I think, just have really good music that just elevates the film. Especially you have surf music and stuff like that. He is just a master at picking the right songs for whatever movies he's working on. But let me see here. Let's see. Picked up again, this is like I said mentioned earlier, the first Tarantino movie I'd ever seen. Like I said, the dialogue and the conversations. Tarantino is just amazing at creating what could be very natural conversations. It feels like these are conversations that you could easily get into or just be a part of. They feel very natural. They feel organic. So I think that's probably his best thing of his writing is just his dialogue, and then also just how he writes conversations between characters. Definitely my top 3 Tarantino movies. I don't know where I rank it necessarily, but I think my top 3, not in any particular order, are Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Absolutely love all those movies. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood I like because one of my favorite subgenres of film is movies about making movies, and that movie is basically all about that, or part of it, and then having interactions with DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, and Brad Pitt's character. Inglourious Basterds also has that cool scene where they're basically using film as a weapon, both literally and metaphorically. You have the propaganda films, which are the metaphoric use of it, and then they're actually like using a film to burn the theater now. So it's like that's how I took it anyway. And then Pulp Fiction doesn't really necessarily go into a thing about film, but one little subplot or sub detail with Uma Thurman's character is that she was on a failed TV sitcom, the Fox Force 5 thing. Again, don't know where I necessarily rank it. It is very tough to beat because I think this was a lot of people's first Tarantino movie, and he absolutely like not Tarantino's first movie, but a lot of people's first time seeing a Tarantino movie, and he absolutely kind of knocks it out of the park, or not kind of, absolutely knocks it out of the park here. I definitely think he knocks it out of the park with pretty much everything he's done. I'm not the biggest fan of Django Unchained. The Hateful Eight is pretty good. I would have to go through and like rewatch all of them before I would come up with a ranking on where I rank them. But definitely my top three are Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, and then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Reservoir Dogs is also up there. We covered that earlier on the series as well. Let's see, won an Academy Award 1995. I think it was up for a bunch of them, but Tarantino won for Best Screenplay. And it's a funny thing about 1995 is 1995 is where I think I started taking a lot of things a lot more seriously. Like we discussed multiple times in the 1995, because like I saw this came out in 1994, but I first saw it in 1995. Really started taking music seriously in 1995. This is probably where this film right here is probably where I started taking film more seriously. Because I remember seeing this and then going to just a lot more movies. Like I remember like after going to this, going to see like 12 Monkeys and Heat, and caring a lot more about, like the Academy Award nominated films and things like that. So we got that. Let's see here. So the one cool thing with this movie is, I think this is probably also the first movie I saw where it was shot in, or not shot, but presented in a non-linear story. Like if you were to piece the different chapters together in such a way, you would have a continual, like chronological story. I remember hanging out at a video store. This would have been like maybe like a week or two after I saw this movie, and I think there was a person there. He didn't work there. I think he was like the clerk or like the manager of like another video store in town. Was just hanging out, and he was talking about, I think because I think he had it on Laserdisc. He was talking about doing essentially like his own like cut of the movie where he was trying to assemble it, or at least do a chapter ordering on Laserdisc of the movie in chronological order. If you were to put it together from the story beginning to end, it would be that. So that was just very cool. That guy was also just I think eventually opened his own video store. Just really cool dude. Back up from back in the day, I guess. Let's see what else we got here. The story sequence. So I'm gonna bring this thing up here really quick. So let me just pop this over here. Scroll up because I had it written down. So there are 7, I guess, chapters in the movie, and the way they are presented, if you watch the movie from start to finish without going and doing like putting it in chronological order, are part 1 is the prologue. That's the scene in the diner at the very beginning of the movie. You have chapter 2, which is the prelude to Vince Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife. That is kind of where Samuel L. Jackson and Travolta are driving to the place where we're going to get the briefcase back. Chapter 3 is Vincent Vega and Marcellus Wallace's wife. Uma Thurman gets introduced in that one. Chapter 4 is Prelude to the Gold Watch, which is a flashback with Butch as a kid. And that is that whole chapter is 2 parts. It's part A and part B. Part A is a flashback. Part B is basically the boxing match going forward, or present to him hanging out, maybe talking to Marcellus or whatever it was. Chapter 5 is the Gold Watch. That's kind of him going back to get the watch. Chapter 6 is the bonding situation. So after they get out and they're having to lay low at Jimmy's house. And Chapter 7 is the epilogue. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But the chronological order, if you were to sequence it into the way the story unfolds, is it starts with Chapter 4A, which is the flashback in the prelude to the Gold Watch. So when Christopher Walken gives young Butch the watch, that's the very beginning of the film. Then you go through the prelude with Travolta and Samuel Jackson driving to get the briefcase, and then it goes after that. It goes to after that it goes to chapter 6, which is the bonding situation. So they get the briefcase. Marley gets shot. They lay low at Jimmy's house, call the wolf over and stuff like that. And then it cuts back to the prologue in the diner because right after because this scene is presented to where it's just showing Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, I think. And then later in this part of the film, it actually shows that Jules and Vincent are also at the diner as well. So, like I said, it goes from where were we? So it goes, and then it jumps back to from the body situation to the prologue. After the prologue, it goes to the 7th chapter, which is the epilogue of the diner, where it's they're doing the robbery and they talk to Jules. Jules is like, I'm trying really hard to be the let's say the shepherd and all that. And then it cuts to chapter 4B, which is a present day part of the Gold Watch story. After that, it goes to the and then it goes to the Gold Watch. With the Gold Watch, the movie basically ends with Bruce Willis, Butch just driving off on the chopper. So Shada presented it in an out of order fashion. It's a really interesting way to tell a story, and I think this is the first film I saw where it actually did that. So we got that the story sequence. Other interesting things about this movie, this basically revived John Travolta's career. I think like up to that point he was doing like the Look Who's Talking movies. Like he had done at least I think 2 of them before doing Pulp Fiction, and I think the third came out. Look Who's Talking 3 or the one of the dogs, I guess is what it was, came out either like right around the time of Pulp Fiction or like a year later. So there's that. This is my first time seeing Uma Thurman in a movie. I think it was my second time seeing Samuel L. Jackson because he was in Jurassic Park like a year or so prior to this. And we're going to go through the cast here. The cast is just incredible here. Let me just pull the cast up. So in this movie you have John Travolta as Vincent Vega. I remember there was talk of rumors that Tarantino wanted to do a movie about the Vega brothers, which is Vincent and Mr. Blood from Reservoir Dogs. And I think it was supposed to kind of be a prequel to this, where I think like the end of that movie would be Vincent's character, Travolta's character, going to Amsterdam because he like before the movie starts, he said he got back from Amsterdam after being there for like 3 years. Anyhow, so we move into Samuel L. Jackson as Jules, just an iconic Sam Jackson role. Probably should have gotten the Academy Award for that. I think he was nominated, but I think he lost to Gary Sinise from Forrest Gump. And Gary Sinise is very good at Forrest Gump, but like after my most recent rewatch of this, I think it should have went to Sam Jackson. Uma Thurman is in this as Mia Wallace. You have Harvey Keitel as Mr. Wolf or Winston Wolf. Tim Roth as Ringo / Pumpkin. His name is never given. I think Jules just calls him Ringo because he's British. You have Amanda Plummer as Yolanda. I think that's her actual name. I think because Ringo / Pumpkin does call her that, or Honey Bunny as Tim Roth's character calls her. You have Maria de Medeiros as Fabian. That's Butch's girlfriend. You have Ving Rhames as Marcellus Wallace. Probably the first time I saw Ving Rhames in it. Ving Rhames in this movie is just incredibly intimidating and like just a scary guy you don't want to mess with. But yeah, love him in this movie. You have Eric Stoltz as Lance, the drug dealer. You have Rosanna Arquette as Jody, who is Lance's wife. Christopher Walken as Captain Coos, who gives Butch the watch. Who else? And then, of course, Bruce Willis as Butch Coolidge. I like on the poster, let me actually cut back to this, that it says and Bruce Willis. And I find this is actually like a very Bruce Willis heavy movie. Almost like he is kind of one of the through lines for pretty much all the story, except for maybe the chapter where Vincent is hanging out with Mia Wallace. Like even in that chapter, I think you do see Bruce Willis is in that chapter because he's talking to Marcellus at the bar about like throwing the fight and all that. So I like that kind of like, I would say probably like maybe like one of the main characters, like easily in the top 3 main characters of the movie is Bruce Willis, and he's last on the credits on this on the poster here. So incredible cast. There's the whole thing with the briefcase. Like I remember there was like theories on the internet. I remember reading those back in like 1996 or so about the contents of the briefcase, and I think it's a very cool. Being Marcellus Wallace's soul is a really cool way to look at it because apparently like the soul is a very beautiful thing. So people when they open the briefcase are completely dumbfounded. Like Vincent looks at it, Ringo looks at it, and then Marcellus Wallace has the bandage on the back of his head. So apparently, if you were to sell your soul or the soul is removed from that area, that's why he's got the bandage. The whole thing with the people that have the briefcase are supposed to be like demons or devils. Vincent and Jules are essentially like angels sent to get the briefcase back, and then there's the whole divine intervention thing. Just a really cool theory. I don't know if Tarantino's ever come out and actually expressly said what was in the case, but that's a theory that I really kind of like have latched onto. I really like that one. Let's see here. Some interesting casting stories apparently. Apparently, the producers initially wanted Daniel Day-Lewis to be in the movie. I think playing in the role of Vincent. And Danny DeVito is one of the film's producers, and I think he reminded the producers he's like, hey, Tarantino wants Travolta, so and he's got like basically I think Tarantino had like pretty much full control of the movie. He had like a final cut. He had like he was there to like approve all the casting, and he wanted Travolta, so that's how Travolta got the role. Apparently, Samuel L. Jackson almost didn't get the role because I think his first audition, he was just reading the lines, and I think from what I was reading, he kind of assumed he was just reading it, like he was basically like guaranteed the role. And then when he found out it was an audition, he came in on his second audition and knocked it out of the park, and the rest is history, so to speak. And apparently, also Harvey Keitel was really instrumental in getting Reservoir Dogs made, and he's the one that introduced Bruce Willis to Tarantino. All right, that's a lot to get through, but now we're going to get to the plot of the film, and we're probably just going to do it as it is presented from the beginning of the film to the end. We won't necessarily go in the chronological order. So film opens up with a literal definition of pulp. Basically, like it's a like soft mass or like a magazine, like the whole like kind of thing. It's based on kind of like dime store, like dime store. I don't know why I said dime store because the whole thing right there actually says 10 cents. So maybe I just saw that and subconsciously was like, oh, it's a dime store thing. But you know, like cheap kind of like thriller novels and things like that. Cuts to the diner with Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. They're talking about they're like after this we're done. We're not gonna do any more robberies. Like I don't want to do. He's like, and they're saying you can't rob liquor stores. You can't because like you got a gun pointed in your face. So he's like, but people. He's like the last liquor store we did. You got the idea to take the wallets, and we made more from the wallets than we did from the register. And she's like, well, a lot of people come to the restaurant, so they basically then and there, kind of impromptu or very spontaneously decide to hold up the cafe that they're in or coffee shop. It's more like a diner to me, but they do that, and she's like, and I'll execute every single one of you. Editing, of course. And then it cuts into the iconic Miserly by Dick Dale, and then all the cast, the credits. You hear the radio tuning, and it cuts to Jules and Vincent driving to their job that they're going to. They're talking about, again, just the great dialogue about the difference between Europe and the United States. He's like, you can go to a movie theater and get a glass of beer in Amsterdam. I don't mean no paper cup. I mean like a glass of beer. He's like, you can get a beer at McDonald's. And he's like, what do they call a Big Mac? He's like, they call it a Big Mac. He's like, you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France? He's like, they don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese. Like, nah, man. I don't know why I'm just reaching. He's like, they got the metric system. They call it a Royale with cheese. And it's like, I think like after that, I remember like really liking the term Royale with cheese. But great dialogue. They get to the apartment where the people are like holding up like Brett and his like crew. Tarantino with the iconic trunk shot here. They're like, we should have shotguns for this kind of thing. And then there's like, how many guys up there? They're like, well, at least like probably 3 or 4. He's like, there could be up to 6 guys in there. And then he's like, yeah, we need shotguns. And then they go up. They're talking about a guy that Marcellus threw out of a window for giving Mia a foot massage. And then it's revealed that like, and there's a different kind of philosophies from Jules and Vincent about what a foot massage means, kind of stuff like that. They go in there. They get the briefcase. They eat the Big Kahuna burger, or Jules does. I was disappointed to find out eventually, like that Big Kahuna burger is just a thing that Tarantino made up, because that burger looked really good. But they go in there. They start questioning the people there about. He's like, "What does Marcellus Wallace look like?" Kind of thing. And Jules gets the briefcase. Brett is trying to like just talk to them, and he's like, "My name is Pitt. You're not talking your way out of this stuff." Um, so they go all they did this the whole thing about like where Brett just keeps saying what he's like, "Say what again? Say what one more time?" And then he gets shot because he says what again, and they go through the whole thing, and then he does the incredible Ezekiel 25:17. They lay waste to Brett. It then cuts to the next chapter where it's got Bruce Willis staring at the camera, talking to Marcellus Wallace. Marcellus Wallace is basically paying him to throw the boxing match. Great dialogue from Marcellus. He's like, "That's pride messing with you," like kind of thing. I don't know why he points at his head, but like, I mean, I don't know why I'm pointing at my head. He doesn't do that. But he's basically in the fifth. You're gonna lose the fight. Jules and Vincent show up there. There's like tension between Butch and Vincent. I don't know if they know each other or not, but like there's definitely like he's like there's definitely some tension between those characters. And then cuts to I think Travolta buying some drugs from Eric Stoltz's character. You got the whole scene where he's like, "This one's from this country. This one's from this country. This is the madman. This one's more expensive, but it's friend price." And he's like, "All right." So gets those. He goes to pick up Mia, who is at her house, and then so she comes in. They go to Jack Rabbit Slim's, which is like a 1950s themed like restaurant. Steve Buscemi is like has like a small, very bit part as Buddy Holly, the waiter. They do the twist contest. They win the dance contest. They go back to Mia's house. Travolta's in the bathroom trying to formulate his exit strategy and how he's going to get out of there. Or it's not like he's just like, "You're just going to go home. You're going to say thank you for the drinks and what have you." But during this time, Mia has found the bag of, I think it's supposed to be heroin, that he's got. She ends up snorting that and overdoses, and then he rushes to Lance's house. There's a whole argument between those characters, and then that's when you get the stab through the breastplate with the adrenaline to revive her. Great scene there. I think I'm just going to cut back to this, make sure I'm going in the right order as how this goes. So, yeah, so now we're on the Gold Watch. So, prelude to the Gold Watch is Butch is watching TV. Christopher Walken plays his father's friend they were in a POW camp, and the Gold Watch and how they had to hide the watch in the prisoner of war camp, and it's like a birthright to get that watch. So he gives him the watch, and then it cuts to the present day where they're getting ready to do the boxing match. Bruce Willis was supposed to throw the match, but then apparently, I think like later he's talking to a guy on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, once the people knew that the fix was in, the odds went through the roof." So I think it sounds like it got leaked that Butch was supposed to lose or was going to lose. So everybody I think bet heavily on the other guy. Bruce Willis bet on himself and makes a ton of money in the process. Ends up killing the other boxer. Escapes with in like a taxi, and then goes to his girlfriend is staying at a hotel or a motel. They go there, and then the next morning realizes that his girlfriend forgot to pack the watch. Bruce Willis just flips out, like throws a TV, and then he's like, "I just got to go back and get it." Goes back to the house or his apartment, gets the watch, and then starts to make Pop-Tarts or pop toaster pastries, and then notice there's a silenced like Uzi on the counter. Grabs it. You hear the bathroom. You hear a toilet flush, and Vincent steps out of the bathroom, gets gunned down by Butch. Butch cleans the gun and leaves. Driving back, and this is where the film takes a weird just turn that like I don't think anybody their first time seeing this movie would see this coming at all. So. Well, it leads into this. So you see him stop at a stop sign, and Marcellus Wallace looks by, like stops, is like carrying like coffee and donuts. Looks, sees that it's Butch driving, and he's just like, and then gets run over. I can't say what he says because he cusses at him, but it's like gets run over, and then everybody thinks Marcellus is dead. They're like, "Oh, that guy's dead." He's like, "That guy totally hit you. I'll go to court and like help you out." And he's like, "Who hit me?" They point across the street to Butch, and Butch has got like a broken nose. And Marcellus pulls a gun and starts shooting at him. They get chased down the street. They run into a pawn shop, and Bruce Willis tries to lock the door. Marcellus comes in, and Butch gets the upper hand and is like punching Marcellus. He grabs a gun and he's like about to shoot him, and the clerk pulls a shotgun. And he's like, "Nah." He's like, "Step off that guy," and like throw the gun aside. He's like, "Come over to the counter." He knocks him out. I think Marcellus gets knocked out from just being punched. But then they wake up bound and gagged in a basement, this pawn shop basement, and Maynard, who's the clerk, calls his friend Zed. Actually, I think it's supposed to be his brother. According to apparently my research to this said that in the script at least, or the screenplay, that Maynard and Zed are supposed to be brothers. They basically do itty bitty mighty mo, or Zed does, picks Marcellus and brings him into a back room. You see the door shut. They bring the Gimp out. Apparently, the Gimp is also there. Was like Tarantino filled in some of that guy's backstory, where I think he was like supposed to be like a hitchhiker that they have like abducted, and they just have like kept in like the basement of the pawn shop for however long. But Bruce Willis is able to get out of his bonds and like break and get out of the chair. He knocks out the Gimp, and I think the Gimp just like gets like kind of hung because he's like on like a dog leash kind of thing at like the yard kind of thing, and he's considering escaping. He goes up, unlocks the door, has like a change of heart, closes the door, and then sees like a bunch of different weapons. He sees like grabs a hammer, and then he grabs a chainsaw, and then he grabs a baseball bat, and then you do have this overhead shot of him like looking up at something. You see him grab a katana off the top shelf and just uses that, and then goes in there, opens the door. Zed is doing all kinds of terrible stuff to Marcellus, and he slices Maynard, and then like does the backstab to him, and Marcellus what's his name, Zed, kind of is trying to grab his gun. He's like, "Oh, you want to grab?" And Butch just has a sword. He's like, "You want to grab that gun, don't you?" He's like, "Go ahead, pick it up, pick it up." And then one of the most iconic dialogues in the film, you see Marcellus kind of stand up. I think it's like in slow motion. He's like, "Step aside, Butch." He blasts Zed with a shotgun, goes into his whole tirade about him. He's like, "I'm gonna get medieval on you." He's like, "I'm gonna call a couple guys and go to work on you for parapliers and a blowtorch." And then like kind of like and funny, he's like, "What now?" And he's like, "What now? I'll tell you what now." And Marcellus goes on this huge like plans for what he's gonna do to Zed, and then Butch is like, "No, I meant what now between me and you." And he's like, "Oh, that what now?" He's like, "There is no me and you." He's like, "Don't tell nobody about this, and you leave town right now." And he's like, "And once you're gone, you stay gone or you be gone. You lost all your LA privileges." And then so Bruce Willis like leaves, gets on Zed's chopper, brings the chopper back to the hotel to pick up his girlfriend. She's like, "Whose motorcycle is this?" He's like, It's a chopper, baby." He's like, "Whose chopper is this?" He's like, "Zed's." He's like, "Who's Zed?" He's like, "Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead." Just so much iconic dialogue in this film. And then after that, it cuts back to the apartment of the people that Jules and Vincent are at. And a different perspective is shown where you see a guy in a bathroom with a revolver now. And he goes into the whole thing with the Ezekiel 25:17 part. That guy breaks in, like unloads on both Jules and Vincent, misses entirely. They blast him, and then they grab Marvin, played by Phil Lamar, and they bring him to the car. And they're kind of like talking about the whole divine intervention thing. Travolta or Jules basically goes to the back, and he's like, "You don't think that," and then accidentally shoots Marvin in the head. Car is completely covered in blood now, so they had to get it off the road. They go to Jimmy's house, played by Quentin Tarantino. The whole iconic scene. He's like, "I don't need you to how good my coffee is." He's like, "I'm the one that buys it. I know how good it is." But he's like, "I need you to get you guys to be like out of here in like an hour and a half, as my wife's coming home, and I don't want to get divorced over this." So they call Marcellus. Marcellus is like, "I'm sending the wolf." Harvey Keitel shows up. Basically, is the cleaner, gets them to clean the car up, dispose the body, has a whole plan to get rid of everything. They they clean it up. They bring the car to like a junkyard, like a scrap yard, to get rid of it. and then they end up at the coffee shop from the prequel or the prologue of the film. They're eating, like pancakes or what have you, and he's like, "You want some bacon?" He's like, "No, man, I don't eat pork." He's like, "Are you Jewish?" He's like, "No, I ain't Jewish. I just don't think I'm swine. That's all." Just again, great dialogue. Travolta's character or Vincent goes off to the restroom, and that's when the whole robbery happens. Everybody's taking their wallets out and throwing their wallets in the bag that they're carrying around. Um, Jules drops his wallet in there, and he's like, "What's in the briefcase?" He's like, "My boss's dirty laundry." He's like, "Your boss makes you do his laundry?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "That sounds pretty bad." He's like, "Open it." He's like, "I can't open it." He's like, "I've been through enough like trouble today over this briefcase to let you to hand it to you." And he's like, "Open it or I'll shoot you." So he basically opens it and it glows. He's like, "Is that what I think it is?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he basically pulls Tim Roth's character Ringo down, or Pumpkin down, pulls a gun on him. They get into a whole conversation about. He's like, kind of like he's like normally like you guys would be dead, but I'm in a transitional period right now, and I'm trying really hard to be the shepherd. Vincent at this point has come back out, and he's got a gun pointed at Yolanda. So it's kind of like almost like a Mexican standoff because you have Sam Jackson pointing a gun, or Jules pointing a gun at Pumpkin. I think it's Pumpkin. Yeah. Pumpkin is it Pumpkin or I think Honey Bunny is Amanda Plummer's character. But let me bring the cast up really quick here, just to verify that. Yeah, so Tim Roth is Pumpkin. So basically, Jules has a gun pointed at Pumpkin. Um, no, I say yeah. Jules has a gun pointed at Pumpkin. Vincent has a gun pointed at Yolanda. Yolanda is kind of going between Samuel Jackson or Jules and Vincent. And he's like, "I want you to go into my wallet and like take my wallet out of there." It's the one that says BMF. He pulls it out. And he's like, gives him a bunch of money. He's like, "It's yours." And he's like, he's like, "I can't let you have the case though." And it's like, okay. And he's like, so then basically, and he's like, "If you give this fool like, I think it was like $1,500 or something," he's like, I'll shoot him." And he's like, "No," like he's like, "Vincent, shut up, man. Like, don't say anything." And then they eventually leave the coffee shop with the briefcase. Um, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny leave the coffee shop with the bag of wallets. And then it just cuts to Surf Rider starts playing. They leave the coffee shop, and the movie ends. Just an incredible ride. Like it's infinitely quotable. Just the music is amazing. The dialogue is incredible. The casting is perfect. Like I don't think you could go through and like change any of the cast and have it be any better. I think like the cast they got was perfect. Like I said, it kind of took a risk with Travolta because it was like his career was kind of in decline, and this brought his career right back up. Went on from doing this to doing like I think like Broken Arrow, and then Face Off, a bunch of other stuff. For me, it definitely put Sam Jackson on the map, even though he had been active for quite a while at that point. I remember he like had done like Do the Right Thing, which I saw eventually like years later, and then Jurassic Park and all that. First movie I saw was Uma Thurman. Just an incredible film. It's one of my favorite films. Again, I don't know where I rank it necessarily in my top films list, but it's definitely up there. It's an iconic classic. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. But that is going to do it for this episode. We'll be back again in a few days with a video game. We don't know what that game's going to be just yet, but we'll be back with that. And then we'll be jumping back into 1995 again, and then the rest of the decade after that. So thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one. Sorry. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Have a good one. Take care. Or however it goes. All right. See ya.